6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical. So step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.
Good evening. Welcome to 6 Feet Apart Productions Sunday Night Stories. We're so glad you could join us. My name is Regina Stoops. I'm going to be your MC for the evening. And tonight we're very excited to bring you our fourth Story Slam. It's going to be epic battle, WWE. Somebody's going to be the winner and somebody's going to go home sad. All right. So you get to vote at the end of this to choose the winner for the evening. They don't get this belt because my son wouldn't give it up, but you get the idea. I want to give a shout out to our audience, first of all. So if we could just have a shot of the audience, everybody who's here with us tonight live.
Yay!
Yeah. All right, our virtual audience with the backstage pass here with us. Thanks for coming. Our theme tonight is blame. Taking the blame, giving the blame, throwing yourself on the hand grenade, being blamed, blaming someone else, the shame of the blame game. You get the idea. Don't blame us if you don't have a good time. What you're going to hear tonight are true personal stories. They're not rants. It's not stand-up comedy. It's not a story that's being read from a book. They're just true personal stories that somewhere in there touch upon blame. No X-rated language, but we can't really guarantee what's going to happen. So if you've got really small kids with sensitive ears, you might want to shove them out of the room and close the door tightly. We know this is a very different experience than live theater, and I'm sure you're all getting used to it a little bit, but we miss live theater. We know you do. But there's advantages. You got to realize the advantages. And you know, one of the advantages, I'm pretty sure you didn't have a tough time finding a parking spot for tonight. Except for perhaps Corey, who I think is still in his car and needs to find a parking spot to join us. But regardless, parking spot, not a problem. And you didn't have to decide what to wear. You didn't even have to decide to wear anything, except for our audience members. We do appreciate that apparently from the waist up, you are clothed. We like that. And, you know, the bar has all of your favorite drinks because it's like you stocked it yourself because you pretty much did. So sit back and relax. Enjoy this virtual experience. Get yourself a cold drink, take off your pants or keep them on, whatever suits you. And I'd like to bring up our first storyteller. She is a jazz and blues diva. In fact, she's based in Chicago, and the late, great Roger Ebert said that she was his favorite diva, and I love that fact. She's brought her special brand of storytelling, raw humor, and has performed in Chicago, New York, Atlanta, in her sold-out show, a musical tribute to Nina Simone, which I'm sure was just absolutely wonderful. So please give a virtual warm welcome to our first storyteller, Lynn Jordan.
Hi, everybody. Well, as you heard, I'm a singer and I have a band. I have a rather large band. I play with 7 to 10 pieces. And I make my living singing, of course, at bars and concerts and festivals. But a huge part of my living is from doing private events for corporations, weddings, birthday parties, whatever. And so this story takes place at a private event we did for a corporation. It was owned by a family, and it was owned by a brother and sister who were just the sweetest, most wonderful people. They hired us for this party, and it was moderately sized. There were about 80 people there. We didn't have a stage. We were right on the floor, so we were right with them. This was pre-COVID, okay? And so you know, they fed us heavy hors d'oeuvres and dinner and then dancing, which was our part. And I mean, we were well fed and had a few cocktails, so we were really happy. You know, my band's playing and I'm singing, yeah, yeah, yeah. And the audience is just going crazy, dancing, yeah, woohoo, yeah. And we were right there. They were right in our faces. So there was a real connection going, and it was going really well. And we're known for like making dance parties happen. So the dance floor was pretty much the whole party. So there are like maybe 75 people dancing in front of us just freely. It was a wonderful, wonderful night, wonderful gig. And again, the owners were so nice that they were Tony and Terry was the sister, Tony the brother. So we're dancing, you know, they're dancing, we're playing, and I start feeling like kind of a churning, you know, in my innards. And, you know, but it was okay. You know, the show must go on. And I was starting to feel a little uncomfortable. So I thought, well, you know, I'm going to relieve some of this pressure. There's a band here. They're there dancing. No one will notice. So I kind of, you know, let one out. You know what I'm saying? Not to be crude, but, you know, I passed a little gas. Oh, I felt better. Oh, I felt so much better because I'm still singing while all this is happening. And then, you know, it felt so good. I let another one go. These were all silent. And I'm singing, the band's behind me, and I look over, and the guys are playing like this. You're like, oh, you know, and I thought, oh, you all need to grow up. Grow up. It's just a little fart. Shut up. So I start laughing hysterically. And then I turn towards the audience and they're all like, oh, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And they're like fanning in front of their faces and they start leaving the dance floor. And I'm like, oh my God, was this my fart clearing the dance floor? And all of a sudden I see Terry hit her brother, boom, in the head. You're just, and I could see her mouthing, you're disgusting. You're ruining the party. Because everyone had fled the dance floor because of my fart, right? It was the most, it was crazy. I'd never experienced anything like this before because it just sat there like a claw, like fog. And if it had a color, it would have been like lime green, like poison, toxic poison, just hovering above all these people. And they start leaving the floor, and all that's left is the CEO, Tony, his sister, the CFO, and maybe 3 or 4 drunks who I guess couldn't smell it. I don't know. My band was just like falling apart behind me. And this is all because of my innocent little, you know, gas passing, which I must admit felt a little hot when it came out, but I didn't think it would be dangerous. You know, I didn't know. I didn't know. So it was a hilarious story, and I still think about it. So fast forward 25 years, because this happened 25 years ago, and I get a call from Terry, and she's like, hey, Lynn. I'm like, hi. She goes, do you remember me? I said, of course. We used to do parties for you. She goes, yeah, the last party you did, my brother farted and cleared the dance floor. And I was like, what? And she said, Tony farted and like ruined the party. And we give him shit about this to this day. And can you believe he still denies it after 25 years? And I'm like, this is my moment. This is my moment, you know, to come clean. I mean, I can't imagine this poor guy, 25 years saying, that wasn't me. I didn't make that fart. I don't know who did it, but it wasn't me. And she's going on and on. And I'm thinking in my head, she's just going on and on about how I can't believe, you know, it was just a fart. What's the big deal? And I'm thinking to myself, it's just a fart. What's the big deal? And she goes, can you believe it? 25 years and he still won't accept the blame. And I said to her, ain't that just like a man? Thank you. That's my story. The fart heard around the world, smelt around the world. Thank you. True story, I swear.
Yay! Oh, that was, yeah, that was amazing. We have all been there, right? try to like, slide over to the corner of the room or turn and face the other way, or maybe those are just
But have you cleared the dance floor?
Yeah, to clear the dance floor. That is like, usually that's just the slow song that the DJ puts on at the wrong time, but all right. Thank you for that, Lynn. The fart heard round the world, or maybe it's the fart that was smelled round the world. I don't know. All right. A reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, or even if you're in the audience, put some love in the chat. We always like to hear what you have to say. And we're going to keep this going with our next storyteller is the founder of Better Said Than Done, and has performed at such venues as the Atlas Performing Arts Center, the National Women's Equality Monument, and the National Mall. I love that. Also the International Storytelling Festival, and twice at the Susquehanna Folk Festival Liars Competition, or at least she says she has. Who knows? She has a lot going on with both storytelling shows and workshops, and you can find out details about all of that by visiting Better Said Than Done and click on the Storyteller page. And you'll find all information about her, the workshops, the storytelling shows. So please support these people that are telling you stories tonight. Better Said Than Done. Please give a welcome to Jessica Robinson.
So the summer after I graduated from film school, I went to work in the feature film industry in New York City. And I went to work on this movie that was out of LA. It was the third or fourth movie I'd ever worked on. And it was only in New York City for 6 days. Still, on the 6th day, the crew van dropped all of us off at the DeKalb subway stop, which was 1 block from my apartment. And, it had been a hot, disgusting, humid August day working outside in New York City. So even though I had only known the crew for 6 days, I invited them back to my apartment for some water. Everyone said, no, we'll just see you tomorrow at the wrap party, except for this one guy, Craig, who took me up on the water offer. Now, this was a few years after grunge was in fashion, but I was still rocking it. I had my combat boots, I had my baggy jeans, I had my baggy t-shirt, and my breasts were held firmly and flatly to my chest by the world's least sexy sports bra. I'm painting a picture here so that you can perhaps understand my complete and utter surprise when moments after I put the 2 glasses of water down on the dresser, hands appeared from behind me and began massaging my breasts. It was one of those deep tissue massages too, work out all that tension. And at the same time, something very hard yet very small, pressed into my backside and began moving furiously up and down as if trying to create fire. I froze, partly in shock and partly because, well, I was a virgin and this was like the highest base I had ever gotten to. So I was trying to figure out, like, was I losing my virginity? And also, like, wasn't this supposed to feel good? Because it didn't really. Now, Craig, remember him? He's the guy. Craig took my silence as encouragement, and he leaned forward and he just started whispering in my ear, like easing me into the moment. And he said, oh, baby, you got me so hot. And as soon as his breath hit my neck, I just snapped out of it. I jumped away and I said, what are you doing? He didn't answer. He just lunged for the boobies. So I began maneuvering him towards the exit, leading with my breasts, and he followed, swatting at them like a kid in a candy shop. It was when I got him out in the hall that he seemed to realize I had tricked him, and he said, wait a minute, you got me hard. You gotta take care of me. And I said, I am sorry, but there is no way you can blame me for this situation. And he said, well, you got to at least give me a hand job. And I didn't remember signing that contract. So I started to just close the door on his face, but he put his hand out, stopping my door. And he got this really pleading look in his eye. And he said, please, please, I have blue balls so bad, I'm going to die. I said, good luck with that. And I closed the door in his face. But I did feel a little bit nervous about the situation. You see, no one had ever used the term blue balls on me before, and I didn't know what it was. And it sounded serious. I didn't know what kind of medical condition he might be suffering from. And I didn't like him, obviously, but I didn't want to have caused him any harm. But there wasn't really anything I was willing to do to rectify the situation. So I put him out of my mind until the next day at the wrap party. He wasn't there. Everyone goes to the wrap party. It's free alcohol, and he wasn't there. Hours went by and Craig wasn't showing up, and I was starting to feel a little bit nervous. Finally, I could take it no more. I went up to the second AD and I said, do you know, like, what's up with Craig not being here? And she said, Craig's in the hospital. Okay. I went on a very fast downward spiral into getting arrested for having put this guy in the hospital. And I was trying to process like how I was going to talk my way out of this when she saw the look on my face and she said, oh, no, it's nothing like that. Craig is in the hospital because his wife is giving birth. Yeah, so I stopped feeling guilty about the whole situation. And I figured, you know what, I was just going to go ahead and blame Craig's medical condition on the baby, because I'm pretty sure that's what Craig did. Thank you.
Story. Woo!
Old blue balls.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. That was funny. All right. Let's see if our next contestant can top that. So I want to give a really big thank you to our next storyteller, because he jumped in at the last minute when one of our scheduled guests had to back out. And he teaches and performs storytelling and improv. So I've no doubt that he can just nail this with the 6 hours notice that he had. But he did say, don't blame him if he can't. So he performs with Bay Area theater sports, improv, math. He's a Moth StorySLAM producer, he's a writer, creative director, visual effects producer. Please give a warm welcome to Corey Rosen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, am I muted? No, you can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. God, blue balls and farts. It's, thanks for the setup, ladies. I really appreciate it. Gosh, blame. So blame is really an appropriate topic for this week, because I don't know how many of you out there are of the Jewish persuasion, but this is what we call the High Holy Days. And starting this Friday night will be Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. And traditionally, the way that the High Holy Days go and the Jewish New Year works is that this is a time for introspection, for reflection on our own lives. And it's actually a time when we take responsibility, make amends, think about, kind of take stock of the times in our lives where we need to say, I'm sorry, and apologize to others out there. So being that it's the High Holy Days, it also makes me think about the other important Jewish holiday, Christmas, which you might not think of as a typically or traditionally Jewish holiday, but believe it or not, many Jews actually do celebrate Christmas in a similar way. You know, I think that being a Jewish kid surrounded by Christian, symbolism and trees and those sort of things, we would often feel left out during that time of the year. So my family had a tradition, which was that every year on Christmas, we would fly to Los Angeles from New York, where I lived, me with my parents and my two brothers, to visit my aunt and uncle and our two cousins. Now, the two cousins who live there are the same ages, basically, as me and my older brother, Adam. My younger brother, Steven, came along. He was a surprise baby, so he didn't really have like a playmate to play with, but that was okay because he was kind of like the human stuffed animal in the family where, whatever we were doing, he would take care of himself, or there would always be toys and presents and things for Stevie to do, while the rest of us would do big kid things like messing around in the swimming pool, or maybe if we'd go to like a theme park, one of the many Los Angeles area theme parks, we would all go on the big kid roller coasters and rides, and Stevie would play on the jungle gym, that kind of thing. So it's Christmas morning, 1983. Stevie's 5. I'm 10 years old. And we wake up to it's Christmas morning. And even though, again, we're a Jewish family, this is the time that we are going to give each other gifts from each other to each other. It's our family. Okay, it's Hanukkah dressed up like Christmas, but whatever. We're calling it Christmas. And we wake up groggy-eyed into the living room where we are delighted and surprised to see presents, as any child would be, stacked up and waiting for us to open. And we rush in looking for the presents that have our names on them. And my older cousin looks and he sees his, and he's got his box in front of him. And my other cousin has his, and I've got mine. And Stevie's there, and Stevie's got one. And there's one more box that nobody's grabbed, and it is my older brother Adam's. And the reason that nobody's grabbed it is because it's already open. In fact, it's sitting there, and the contents of it, which is a Lego City set, have already been opened, and not just opened, but played with. The bags have been opened and dumped on the floor, and the characters, the little mini figures, have been built, constructed, and they're there, and it's all been played with. But Adam is still sleeping. So we know what's happened here. That Stevie, who's the one who came in and made everybody get up, like, you guys, you have to get up. The one who came in the room to wake everybody up had come out and and tore into a present, took out the Lego, started to play with them, and then he wanted to bring everybody in on the fun. And we let him have it. Stevie, this is Adam's present. That is your present. And he's like, I didn't do it. And we're like, Stevie, we know that you did it. It's okay. You're 5. You can't read. It's fine. And he's digs his heels in and, storms off, upset as we, rewrap his present, put everything back into the box, tape the box up, meticulously seal it. And then I go in to the room and I wake up Adam. And Adam's a heavy sleeper. My brother, he's a snorer. He's a deep breather. And he's Adam. Adam, it's Christmas. It's Christmas. So he comes in to the living room, and we're all sitting there. Now, everybody at this point has had our presents opened in front of us, and Stevie is still sitting in the corner like this. And Adam looks down and he sees his present, and he goes, I already opened this. He had woken up like an hour before Steven had woken up. He came into the living room, opened his own present, played with it, and then got bored and went back to bed. Steven, it was like in slow motion that all heads turned across the room to look at him. And with the most angry face that he's got, it made the rest of us explode in laughter. So being that it is the season where we must ask forgiveness, after these many years, I must publicly say, Stevie, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yay! Great. That was awesome.
That was great.
That was fun.
Really great.
Who doesn't have a story like that?
Oh, that was super great. That's a way to just own up to that, Corey. You get an award. I'm not sure what it is, but somewhere there's an award for you for owning up to that. So our next storyteller, you may have in the audience may have noticed he just arrived, but there's a good reason for that. There he is. Yep. And first of all, he's a 4-time Moth Story Slam champ and a National Storytelling Network Grand Slam champion. He's a fixture in the New York City storytelling scene, and you can find him every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you do your time zone math, that'll tell you why he just got in the room. We're happy to have him. But at 9 o'clock Eastern time, he appears as the special guest, the worst-selling authoress, Cassandra Delegan, on drag queen legend, Hedda Lettuce. God, I love those names. Hedda Lettuce's live show on Instagram, and you can find that at Hedda Lettuce NY. So please give a Zoom drag queen welcome to Jamie Brickhouse.
Thank you. What a great intro. And I'm glad I made it here. I love this, going from one show to the next in your own living room. So I'm just going to start. I met my first boyfriend in first grade. Eric Munson was his name. I've always been a precocious child. And it was 1974 in bumfucked Beaumont, Texas. And we were both in Mrs. Chambers' class. And we met the way most budding homosexuals meet, during PE class, far on the sidelines of the playing field. He looked at me and he said, "I like your pretty red hair." And I said, "I like your pretty blue eyes." And he had these light blue eyes. They looked just like the aquamarine ring that Mrs. Chambers always wore in class. So while the other boys played a savage game of dodgeball, Eric and I discussed our very favorite episodes of Bewitched. Now, for those of you who don't know, Bewitched was this 1960s sitcom about a beautiful blonde witch, Samantha, married to a mortal, Darren, and her meddlesome drag queen of a mother, Endora. Pretty soon, Eric and I were playing Bewitched on a regular basis, but in our version, Darren didn't exist. I played Samantha. Eric was so homosexually advanced, he played Endora. He could perfectly mimic her drag queen gestures as he would cast spells with a tornado of whirling arms, sucked in cheeks, and arched eyebrows. Woo! Eric could always outdo me on the Sissy Fabulous scale. In the evenings, we'd have long phone conversations. I would cradle the receiver between my ear and my shoulder and lethargically twirl the long, squiggly cord like a jump rope. And I always ended the conversations the same way. "Well, let me let you go," which is how my mother ended her phone conversations when it was really she who wanted to be let go. It's the Southern way of dropping someone. Now, Mrs. Chambers was as equally enamored of me and my pretty red hair as Eric was. And my feelings for her were mutual. She had a big personality, bubble of brunette hair, bright makeup that was punctuated by frosted pink lips. She was like a movie star to me. And I often stayed after class, even after I was no longer in her class and had moved on to third grade and Eric and I were still friends, but I would stay after school to be her special little helper. And on one of those special after school afternoons, she called me over to her desk. "Jamie, I want to have a little talk with you." I loved little talks with big people. So I ran over to her desk and I looked up at her. "Jamie, do you know what a sissy is?" My eyes zeroed in on her frosted pink lips as she said, "Sissy." "I think so." I don't know if I knew or if I intuitively knew, but I felt like I was in trouble. "Well, Eric might be one, and the other boys might think you're one too if you hang around him too much. Maybe you should take a little break from him for a while. Just something to think about." I don't know how much I thought about it, but after that conversation, every time Eric came over to play, I kept making up lame excuses for why I couldn't. I remember the last time I saw him, he stood on my front porch after I'd made up yet another lie of why I couldn't come out and play. I think I said I was going to be playing cowboys and Indians with the other boys down the street. We both knew that was a fairy tale. This time he didn't protest. He just said, "Okay." His aqua blue eyes were moist. To break the awkward moment, I said the only thing I could think of to say. "Well, let me let you go." And he got on his bike and he pedaled away. Not long after that, my family moved across town and I changed school districts, so I didn't see Eric anymore or Mrs. Chambers. But when I hit junior high, I had an epiphany. Mrs. Chambers was right. Eric is a sissy. And you know what? So am I. And I blamed her for me dumping Eric. So I wanted to write that. And I wanted to pick up where we left off. So I got on my bike and I rode across town, determined to resume our game of Bewitched, but maybe I would be Darren to his Samantha. And I rang the doorbell. A strange man answered. Is Eric home? Who? Oh, the Munsons. No, they moved to Oklahoma years ago. I was too late. So I grew up and I got the hell out of that small town and I moved to New York City to lead my own sissy fabulous life. Thank you very much. Which for me meant a lot of alcohol and drugs. And over the years, that fabulous eventually sunk me into a deep depression and I bottomed out on a suicide attempt. And then I got sober and I thought about Eric a lot, not that I'd ever forgotten him. And I don't know, in my mind, I thought he had maybe had the same problems as I did, alcohol and drugs. And I also imagined that he had channeled his talents for mimicking Endora into a fabulous drag queen career. So I tried to find him on Facebook and I sent a message to someone who I thought was a match. And I imagined as soon as he got that message, he would reply immediately and say, is this Jamie Brickhouse from Mrs. Chambers' class? Girl, call me. And I'd call him and he would say, how are you? And I'd say, I'm fine. I said, how are you? What are you doing? He said, girl, I'm a sober drag queen. I said, really? I am too. Well, I'm not sober, but I am sober, but I'm not a drag queen. And then I would say, I'm sorry for dumping you and ending our friendship and letting Mrs. Chambers get in the way. And he would say, girl, you're not to blame. We were just kids. And she was just a small town bitch. But I never got a reply. And then I reconnected with another classmate who had kept in touch with Eric. And it turned out we had a lot in common. Like me, he had his problems with alcohol and drugs. Unlike me, he never made it far from small towns in Oklahoma and Texas. Like me, he'd attempted suicide, but he succeeded. He outdid me. And I was so devastated that I would never have the chance to tell him that I'm sorry for the last words I said to him so many years ago. Well, let me let you go. Thank you.
Woo! Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie, thank you. Thank you for that. I guess that's seize the moment and say what you want to those you want to say it to. Jamie, thank you. That was a great story.
Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. Thanks for making the effort to get from, I don't know, one side of your living room clear over to the other side of your living room. Take off that.
Well, and get out of drag, exactly.
No, I wanted to see, we should have just had you do an entrance where you came running, throwing off.
So you know what? Now I am a sober drag queen.
Well, we're happy you're here.
Thank you.
Our next storyteller, by the way, so this is our last storyteller, and afterwards we're going to vote. So if you've got some device and you can start pulling up our webpage, which is 6feetapartproductions.com, and you'll see a big, it'll be obvious where you need to vote, the big cast picture, and it says click to vote here. Just get that teed up so that when we're done with our final storyteller, you'll be able to pop right over there and vote for your favorite story. Okay, our next storyteller is Chicago-based. We have two from Chicago. She's a singer-songwriter, producer of Story Jam, a storytelling show in which each story gets a song written just for it. And I did not know that until tonight. And I so want to be on this show. Oh, I want a song written about my story. She's an introvert, but she loves performing, which is weird, but I can relate because I'm kind of like that too. She was once a crazy, wild rocker chick, and she likes documentaries and fruity popsicles, which I can also relate to. So she's got a lot of variety in her background, But regardless, please give a warm welcome to Stephanie Rogers.
Thank you so much, Regina. Hello, everybody. So I'm ringing the doorbell again and again and again. And I know somebody's got to be home because there's a car right next to me here in the driveway, right next to the front door. And there's a car behind that car. So I'm ringing and I'm ringing. This is the home of my mailman, Dion. He lives about 5 minutes from where I live in our sleepy little town in Illinois. I'm here because 3 days ago, I got home and there were 2 cop cars in front of my house and all the neighbors were out. And I was frantically worried about something happening, something bad happening. And I ran out and what's up? What happened? What happened? Because nothing like this ever happens in my town. And one of the neighbors said, it's Dion. He was attacked, our mail guy. And I have a special place in my heart for Dion. We have this kind of kinship, me and Dion, because Dion loves music. And so when I'm playing piano and he's delivering mail, sometimes I see him walking up my steps to deliver the mail. And then I don't see him walking back down and I'm just sitting there at the piano. And I've seen him do this again and again and again. And finally, one time I saw him walk up to deliver the mail and I got off the piano and I walked over to the door and I said, Dion, what are you doing? And he said, oh, Stephanie, when you play piano, you sound just like an angel. So Dion, he's my buddy, but now he's hurt. And I found out what happened. And when I found out what happened, that he was attacked in front of my house, I tracked down his phone number frantically. And I called him up and I said, Dion, it's Stephanie from Washington Avenue. Hi, Stephanie, he says. And I say, Dion, what happened? I heard you got hurt. What happened? And he said, yes, a man came up to me and he said, are you a mailman? And I said, yes. And he just beat me up. And I have to have surgery and I have to see doctors and I'm going to miss work and I'm going to miss overtime. And he sounds very, very upset. And now I'm getting upset because this is Dion. He's my sweetie. So I hang up the phone with him and I try to find as many emails of all the neighbors that I can find. And I gather up 60 emails and I blast out a big email. And I say, everybody, guys, Dion, the mail guy, maybe you don't know him, but I know him really well. He's so wonderful. He loves music. He got attacked in front of my house. Let's take up a collection for him. And pretty soon in the next couple of days, money starts rolling in. I get 20s and 50s and $5 bills and checks and little cookies and cards that people have made and people have brought over, and I have a big stack of stuff and I can't really send it to them. So I decide I'm just going to bring it over. So here I am now, and I'm ringing that doorbell again and again and again. But now I'm thinking, oh shit, I've been ringing the doorbell, but he's been hurt. So maybe he's just resting. Oh no, I woke him up because I'm ringing and ringing and ringing like a frantic crazy lady. So I stop and I think, well, I better leave and then I'll come back again maybe tomorrow or something. I've got this wad of cash. In fact, I have collected over $2,000 from all my generous neighbors. I've got $2,000 in my hand to give to Dion. And as I'm making my decision to leave, the door opens very slowly and it's a woman and she's covering her face. And I think, well, maybe this is his wife. And I say, hi, I'm Stephanie from Washington Avenue and I've got a present for Dion. And then out of nowhere, Dion appears. He's in the dark and I sort of see him a little bit and he doesn't look like he was resting or napping or anything. And there's a lot of tension in the room. In the hallway. And I look over at Dion and I see as he starts coming toward the light in the hallway, his whole right side of his face is so messed up. His face is swollen, it's black and blue and red marks and his neck is all bandaged and he can barely see out of his right eye. And I'm like, oh, Dion, oh no. And then I look over at his wife and I'm like, looking at her and I see that she's covering her eye. And I look, there looks like it's hurt. Her eye, something happened. And in fact, it looks like a black and blue eye. And I look at her and I look at Dion. And suddenly I think, oh my God, did he hurt her? He said that somebody came up to him and said, are you a mailman? But he was wearing his mailman uniform, and he was carrying his mailman bag like he always does. I'm sure he was. How would someone not know that how would you know? Of course he was a mailman. But maybe that person said, "Are you Dion?" And maybe this was payback. So all of this is going through my head as I'm standing in the hallway looking at my beat up mailman and his beat up wife. And I've got almost $2,200, over $2,000 in my hands to give to him. So I have a moral dilemma on my hands. What do I do? Do I give this money to a potential wife abuser, or do I leave? So I turn to the wife and I say, "Did he hit you?" I don't know where that came from. Like, what gall to say that? And he's my friend. "Did he hit you?" I say. And she says, "No, no, no. This is just my cat. I have allergies and my cat scratched me." And then I look back at Dion and I look back at her and I say, "Are you sure somebody didn't hurt you? Are you okay?" And she says, "No, I'm fine. It's my cat." So I hand over the money and the cards and the cookies and the little card that I made Dion, because I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened here. I have no proof of anything. And I never tell any of the neighbors. And I never call the post office or call the police or anything because I don't know. All I know is that Dion blamed some guy for his getting beaten up. His wife blamed the cat for her black eye. And I blame myself for being naive enough to think that everything in the world is good. Thank you.
Hey, good story.
Hey. Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Woo!
Yes. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
naive. In this day and age, it's sometimes easy to think that there's not enough good or not enough good in the world. But thank you for that story, Stephanie. Thank you. So now has come the time to vote. So we're going to give you a minute or two to hop over to 6feetapartproductions.com, click on the big cast picture, and please go and vote for your favorite story. You'll see the name of each of the stories kind of remind you of what the story was about. So I appreciate why you do that. And of course, tonight's theme was blame. And I live in a house with three now teenage boys. So there's a lot of blame that goes around, and they blame each other. And I like having them around because it comes in handy because I can often blame them for things. And I have three options. I can pick any of them to blame. Although sometimes I don't have anyone to blame but myself, but I'll still try to blame them. For example, my then 12-year-old son, he wanted a phone, and he really, really wanted a phone. And I really didn't want him to have one because I think phones are for talking, which is, I know, okay, boomer, but regardless, I didn't think he needed a phone to play Pokemon Go. So I wasn't having any of it. But if any of you have kids or you know kids, you've been around them, you know that kids are the best salespeople ever. I mean, they can ask you like 53 times and hear the answer no 53 times, but you know they're coming right back for 54. And they're just going to wear you down because they know that you're old and you're tired and you're all already worn down, and they're new and they're not. So they can just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And eventually you cave in, which is what happened. I gave in, but not entirely. I gave him an old phone that he could use when he was connected to Wi-Fi. Okay. So when he had like Google Hangouts, he could talk and he could text. And so every day he could call me at 3:03 and tell me that school was out once again. And once again, he needed to be picked up. And this all worked out really well. It was going fine until the day the phone rang as I was stepping out of the shower. And in my haste to grab the phone, I picked it up and I realized that I could see my naked upper body in that little square, and that I was now live streaming naked to my son at his middle school. I launched myself onto the bed, threw the phone across the room and shouted, "I'll be there in 10 minutes. And then I rolled myself in the bedspread, dropped onto the floor, and did an army crawl over to the phone and hit the stop video button. Well, I went to pick him up at the middle school, and I wondered what I was going to be greeted with. Was there just going to be a whole crowd standing around my son waiting to see the naked mom roll up in her minivan? Was the principal going to be out there with the Child Protective Services? I mean, I was really hoping that this clip wouldn't go viral, but you know, it really seemed like the kind of clip that should probably go viral. Well, I pulled up, my son got in, he didn't really say anything. And I realized, after asking him a few questions, that the glitchy Wi-Fi at his school saved me from my Cougar Mom debut. I was so relieved. I was so glad to escape that, right? But I learned some valuable lessons, and among them is one, don't ever answer the phone naked. There's no good reason to answer the phone naked. There's not. Just don't. And especially if your kids are calling, you should totally not be naked answering the phone when your kids are calling. I realize my mistake now. But also, just it's probably time for my son to have his very own data plan. So he wins in the end. He wore me down. That's my story of blame. All right. I'm going to hand, thank you. I'm going to hand this over now to Claire. We ready, Claire?
I am.
Ready? Yeah. All right. This is my co-producer, Claire Hennessy. She's the other half of 6 Feet Apart Productions. And I'm going to hand this over to her so she can tell us who tonight's winner is. Thank you, Claire.
Well, just want to say, I thought all 5 stories were amazing. They're so different. Or a little bit of a theme when we started off, obviously, with lavatorial humor, which is my favorite. But all the stories were fantastic. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody, for voting. And we have a winner. It was quite close, but we do have a winner. And you'll never guess who it is. It's Jessica. So well done, Jessica. She was so happy because she'd been trying to win all week. So let's bring Jessica on. Jessica, unmute yourself.
Now I feel like you're all like, she was trying to win. I mean, I was, but thank you.
Well done, Jessica. So deserved. Hilarious story.
Thank you. I'm glad you all enjoyed my balls story.
This was a wide range of stories tonight. A lot of smells and sounds and other sensations. So thank you to all of our storytellers. And I'd like to bring our storytellers back one at a time. So if we could have Lynn Jordan, let's give a warm virtual for Lynn. Where are you, Lynn?
Here I am.
There she is. All right. You might be glad that it's virtual, given your propensity for flatulence, Lynn, but it's really great. All right. And let's keep the love going for our winner, Jessica.
Woo! Thank you.
Jessica Cutthroat Robinson. And next, the Jewish Christian fan who came in at the last minute, saved the day, Corey Rosen. And well, actually, the one who came in really at the last minute, of course, was Jamie Brickhouse. Where are you, Jamie? And last, but certainly not least, with the story of Dion the Mailman, Stephanie Rogers. And of course, we don't want to forget about our audience. So let's take a look at the audience, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being with us. Woo! Thanks for the love for all of our storytellers. We've got a lot of great comments in the chat on YouTube and on the Zoom room. Your stories really were enjoyed by all. Lots of fun comments. So thank you. And if you want to know more about what 6 Feet Apart Productions is up to, then find us on our Facebook page. This coming Saturday, we have a comedy show we're hosting a show. It's going to be MC by TK Moyer, and it's TK's Comeback Comedy. So you can find out about that on our Facebook page. And also, let's see, what else? Am I forgetting anything, Claire?
No, then on October the 8th, we've got Stories in Living Colour. So if you want to know more about that, check out our website and our 6 Feet Apart Facebook page.
All right, and audience, please feel free. You've got the backstage pass. Stick around. Say hello to the storytellers if you'd like. Have a virtual drink, maybe have a real drink. But thank you so much for coming. That is our show for the evening. That's a wrap. Thank you.
Woo! Bye.
6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical. So step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.